Well, I have been learning about our rainforests. They provide 40% of the Earth's oxygen. They remove harmful carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and they provide medicines that we need. In fact, 1 in 4 pharmaceuticals are provided from rainforest plants. The Amazon rainforest was shortlisted in 2008 as a candidate to one of the new 7 wonders of nature by the new 7 Wonders of the World Foundation. The 5.5 million square kilometers of rainforest includes territory belonging to 9 nations, but the majority, 60%, is contained within Brazil. Sadly, 37,000 square kilometers was destroyed or damaged in 2008 alone. My guest has gone to battle to save the rainforests of Brazil, highlighting the environmental costs of cutting the jungle. He's going at it in a unique way. 2 novels with an interesting designation. They are classified environmental fiction. The Death of the Jaguar, 1 and 2, are the works of Roy Kenny from Kingston, Ontario, a retired Free Methodist pastor, and Missionary. Although, Roy, you are still a traveling man, you love to return to Brazil, don't you?
We came back just about 10 days ago from dedicating a church, and also we were there to help distribute food baskets among the congregation of some of our church planting projects. It's a thrilling experience to be back in Brazil, where the church is alive and growing. It really is great to see what God is doing there.
Well, as I look at what God is doing and has done through your life, I'm encouraged to see that you were an ordinary teenager in Kingston, Ontario. Had a crisis point where you were mocking and struggling, but God got you in Brockville, didn't he? The situation was one in which I was, I guess, growing up, but at the same time I didn't want to pay any attention to my parents' faith, and it was a time when I was trying to find my place in the world, and I turned my back really against God, the church, and the Christian faith. And so this one Sunday I was with some friends and down at our Brockville camp. They're making fun of all these Christians, these religious folks. But on the way home that night, we had an accident and I came to the end of my rope. I realized that I really could not control my own life. There's no way that I could say I'm going to die today or tomorrow or I'm going to die 100 years from now. It was in God's hands. And you could have died in that car accident.
Oh, so easy. It was a convertible and turned partway on its side. It would have been easy to have died. But the following week, I came back to the camp, and at the last service, and people were at the altar seeking God, and I finally, all by myself, walked the aisle to kneel at the altar and surrender my life.
I love these stories because parents, I know there'll be parents watching, who'll take heart. No matter what things look like on the outside, God is at work. And you had a very significant influence in terms of your missionary career. You are in fact named after the man in this picture. Who are we looking at here?
Looking at R.L. Maines, Roy Maines, who was my uncle. My mother was a Maines, of course. And when I was just a boy, 7, 8, 9, 10, I remember him being there at the farm. And he had been a missionary, was a missionary in Egypt.
Yes.
And that was really my first interest, contact, something that moved me rather deeply, even as a child, about missions, world missions.
Now this is David Maines' dad.
Yes.
And you have something you want to present to David Maines' son that I think is a treasure.
Roy Maines, my uncle, gave a souvenir to my mother, and mother passed it on to me, and it's been hidden in a little dusty corner for so long. And I just thought that maybe Ron would like to...
Come on, Ron. This is very special.
All right. Hello, Roy.
Good morning. This is a whip that Uncle Roy gave to my mother. It's made out of rhinoceros hide right from the butt right to the end. It was getting kind of brittle.
It's a single piece, you were
it's
saying,
one
Roy.
piece.
Wow.
And I want to pass that on to you and to the Maines family.
Well,
I didn't
thank
ask
you.
any of the Kennys about it, but I assume it's all okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. We will treasure this. You know, I didn't get to know Grandpa Maines all that much. I was a young boy still when he passed away, but this will be treasured very much. So thank you. God bless you. All right.
Thank you.
We have another very distinctive treasure from another part of the world. Are the jaguars at risk?
It's a protected species. I would say there are a lot of jaguars left because there's a lot of jungle left. But it is a protected species. That's very important to know.
And it was a jaguar skin that inspired the heroine in the story.
And that's
to go to bat.
That's really a true story. We've just adapted it a little bit to fit in with fiction.
You didn't start to write a novel. I love this. You were writing memoirs.
Well, my first bit of writing, yes. Of course, I've always written sermons, but I began to write a few stories of our lives to pass on to the family. And then this jaguar skin always really seemed to have something to say. Even if it was stored away, it had something to say, a story, and that evolved into the first book I wrote.
Now this goes back, you bought him in 1950.
Well, that was about 1959. And
59?
Actually, it's not only a very beautiful skin, but has a rather sad story with it. The jaguar wasn't able to fend for itself in the jungle because all of its paws had lost claws, and one was even infected, and so it couldn't hunt in the jungle. The back claws are the very same. So it was taking a man's pigs, a man who had gotten a bit of jungle to clear, trying to make a living out there, and losing his pigs was really a tough, hard time for him. Mm. And he called a man in who came only with a machete to kill the jaguar. This was an older female.
Kind of at the end of the trail.
End of the trail, and this is what it was doing to live. Well, he gave him his gun. The first guy gave him his gun, but when he found the jaguar in the jungle and used the gun, he couldn't hit it. If you're not acquainted with handguns, it's hard to use. So when the jaguar attacked him, he knocked it down with a machete. I would think it would take a good bit of courage
to get that close.
To get that close.
I would think so.
But it's a beautiful animal, and it represents for me what is happening in the jungle. Animal species are disappearing. Some of them we don't even know what they are yet and what they can offer to us.
And they're disappearing. Enough rainforests are being destroyed every minute to fill 50 football fields. I remember seeing a documentary on the rainforests of the world, and they showed where they used to be, and then just gradually had the green disappear. I've never forgotten it. It was so disturbing because they are so essential, part of God's plan for this creation.
Many scientists say that the jungle, the rainforest in Brazil and area, are the lungs of the world. And Brazilians are more and more conscious of this. When I lived there, there wasn't any consciousness of what would happen when the rainforest was being destroyed, but that is changing. And I bought 3 or 4 newspapers when I was there, and every one of them had something to say about why we shouldn't be destroying the jungle.
Now, I can't read this as Portuguese, which you speak and preach very well. You've got a whole collection of articles. Now, this is just pretty fresh news, good news. March 20th this year, in what is being hailed as a victory for indigenous people groups in the Brazilian Amazon, Brazil's Supreme Court sided with Indians from Raposa Serra do Sol Reservation in a 30-year land dispute with large-scale farmers in the northern state of Roraima. That's near the border with Venezuela. That's a victory. That's one for the native peoples.
Yes, that's happening.
More of that's happening.
It's happening more and more. And
of course, this is what the missionaries to the Aucas, part of what they were trying to do was help them with the encroaching civilization. And
yes,
all
civilization hasn't been good on the indigenous population. There used to be approximately 5 million Indians, and that's down to about 400,000. The diseases that the white man has brought in has been really hard on the indigenous populations.
Now, your book has already been doing great things. You're selling them privately and wherever you speak. And
I go to churches and talk about missions and sell my books, and the money from the books goes to mission work. I go to libraries, schools, and I'll go to almost any church anywhere as long as it isn't the other side of the planet.
Well, you and your eco-heroine have raised $10,000 for a poor school.
That was in 2008, yes. In the interior of Brazil, a school was in a financial crisis. 300 students. They were in a situation where they couldn't provide the lunch for the children, and it was hard to be paying the teachers. So we jumped in, and all the money from the books during 2008 went to help that school.